G'day Gear Junkies, Jason here. A few years ago, Orange brought out the Terra Stamp, and without doing any research, I just assumed that it was a pedal that simulated an Orange style amplifier. What I didn't know was this actually is an amplifier. So I've plugged into the Orange Terra Stamp with this Ibanez S series from the 90s. I'll explain later why I'm using this particular guitar. And I've got the Terra Stamp going into a 112 cabinet with a Yamaha speaker. I'm also using the CabSim out of the Terra Stamp, and I'll let you know when I'm using the speaker or the CabSim on your screen so you know what you're hearing. Now this is my clean sound. Now, if you allow me to indulge myself, it is a bit dry and this doesn't have reverb, but it does have an FX loop. So I can put a reverb in the FX loop, which I have done. I've just got the MXR reverb set to a spring setting. So if I can turn that on. So it's only mildly there in the background, but it's a little bit dry without it. All right, so let's check out the Terra Stamp. So on the top here, we have 4 controls and foot switch. So we have 2 volumes, shape, and gain. The foot switch just swaps between our 2 volume settings. So volume 1, volume 2. Now it's interesting to point out, because this is an amp, it's always on. This is not an on-off switch for this particular unit. That's on the side, and that will completely kill our signal. So this, when it's plugged in, it's always on. All right, let's check out the shape control. So I'll turn it all the way down first. So it's not got much top end, and it's fairly mid-focused as well. That's, I think, more mid-focused. We still don't have a lot of top end. Now that's starting to scoop out a bit of that mid-range and bring in a bit of top end. Now we're starting to lose low mids and bottom end frequencies. So you were hearing all that through the speaker. Now I'm going to rewind that, and you're going to hear it through the CabSim. So I'm just going to go back a bit off center. I think that was my favorite for a clean tone. All right, now let's check out the gain. As I turn the gain up, it's going to get louder. So I'm going to go to my volume 1, which I've got set at a fair bit lower volume. So it's got all the hairiness there of an amp distortion. Amp distortions tend to be really thick and need a bit of shaping, and that definitely needs a bit of shaping, but it's a great, I think, rhythm distortion. Now, I find that the CabSim just tends to be a bit fizzier, and as such, I would probably back this off a little bit when using the CabSim. Now, let's revisit the shape with the drive up. So my favorite setting with this particular speaker for the shape is just probably between 2 and 3 o'clock, but that may vary depending on the speaker or using the CabSim. I've turned the gain back down to get an edge of breakup sort of sound. You can hear when I dig in there, it's a little bit gritty. The Terrastamp has been conveniently designed to be small enough to fit onto a pedalboard. This means that you don't have to lug an amp around with you. You can go straight out of the Terrastamp into the PA, or you can just bring a small speaker cabinet and plug into that. Now, a lot of guys are going to use this on their pedalboard as either a clean platform or use it for the dirt, but want to be able to shape it using other overdrives. So I'm going to demonstrate now using it as my clean platform and then adding drive to it and what that sounds like, and also running the drive and shaping it with another overdrive. I've set the Terrastamp up as a clean platform, and I'm going to use the Marshall Drive Master for my drive tones. Now I'm going to try shaping the distortion from the orange Terrastamp by putting an overdrive pedal in front of it. So I'm going to use a Klon style pedal, which is the J-Rocket Archer, and it's just going to tighten up the bottom end a little bit, and it's also going to give it some more mid-range content, which is just really going to help with the definition of my playing. As I've already said, the CabSim sounds a bit fizzy to me. So if I'm going to use it live, I need to set that shape tool specifically for the CabSim sound. So I'm going to go back to the same drive sound I was using with the speaker and set it so that it sounds better for the CabSim. I think that sounds better than it was, but it's still not great. Orange have been at the forefront of making micro amplifiers. Their Tiny Terra series of lunchbox amplifiers have been highly successful. The Terrastamp here is the same sort of thing, but shrunk down even further. Inside we have a single 12AX7 preamp tube, and then we have a solid state power section. So it's kind of like it's a valve / solid state hybrid amplifier. I think of this as an amplifier head, but why would you have it in the shape of a pedal? Well, the answer is really that you would whack this on your pedal board, and I think that the idea behind it is that you run the CabSim out and you have no need to bring a speaker cabinet with you to a gig. Unfortunately though, I think that the CabSim really lets it down. It sounds far too shrill and fizzy when you're using it with its own distortion, and it also sounds pretty similar when you're stacking it with other distortion going into a clean setting on this. So it just doesn't handle drive particularly well. The other thing I didn't really understand about the design is the two volume pots. So the foot switch switches between the two volume settings. I just don't understand why they didn't also have two gain pots. That way you could have had two channels and you could have set one up clean and one dirty. That was, I think, is a missed opportunity with this. Maybe they could do that with a Mark II version. Having said that, something like this could be indispensable to the touring guitarist, because if your amp goes down, you could pull this out and this can actually power a half stack. So it's definitely got a bit of juice in it. This is incredibly loud. It's 20 watts and it gets every bit as loud as my Fender Deluxe Reverb. So volume is definitely not a problem for this thing. For me, I like to blend amplifiers when I record, and having another amplifier option is always a good thing. I like to blend amplifiers that have different characteristics. So for example, if I blend this with my Marshall DSL-40, I'll get all of the grit and the sizzle from the Marshall, and I'll use this to fill out the lower mid content, because this is much thicker in that area than the Marshall. The two complement each other and create a really big sound. This particular unit belonged to my old guitar teacher, and he showed it to me, and I was really impressed with the clean tones particularly that he was getting. He suggested that I do a demo with it, and unfortunately he passed away about 6 months ago when this found its way into my hands. So I was very glad that I was able to do that demo in his memory. Also, that Ibanez S series that you saw me playing, that was one of his guitars. His widow asked if I would like to keep one of his guitars. That was the one I chose because that's the one I have the most memories of him playing. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. If you want to support this channel, you can go to the Middle Age Gear Junkie store and buy some merchandise. I've left a link in the description. There's also a link to the Middle Age Gear Junkie Facebook page. You are welcome to join. Other than that, my name is Jason. Have a wonderful day. See you later.